Okay, good morning, everyone. It is 11:02. We are going to jump in this morning to our middle school, junior high town hall meeting. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for giving your time to this conversation this morning and joining us. We have a slew of presenters with us this morning. I do want to introduce Christine Chapman, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and Dr. Tim Fullenweider, our Executive Director of Instructional Support Services, who are going to carry along with their team members the majority of the presentation. This morning, we are joined by our superintendent, Mr. Doc Irvin, who is going to intro our conversation and start us this morning. So thank you very much, Doc. I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome again to our second town hall meeting. This is the second one today via Zoom. And then most importantly, thank you all for being here today. And the fact that a large number of you are logged in here during your summer break really shows that you are all dedicated and committed, and most importantly, that you really care about this work and the kids. And it's equally important for you to know that we, all of us, value you and we care about you as well. I want you to know that the decision to open up the 2021 school year virtually was not an easy one. Now, we will continue to plan for in-person learning with a more of a modified schedule, but you know, our numbers in Kern County, they're still not at a good place. And they were not at a good place, so we felt that we could not open in person without risking your safety, but most importantly, the safety of our students. So we made a very tough decision to open 100% virtually. Now, some of you I know are relieved and excited about the decisions. I know there's those out there who may not agree, and there's going to be those who are still in the middle trying to figure out what's going to happen next. But I want to say, though, that whether or not you agree or not, we need all of us working together in order to rise up and meet these challenges. These are unprecedented and these are uncertain times. We're going into uncharted territory. But I will say that you as our educational leaders and role models for our kids, you're gonna help lead us through this new and different way of teaching and learning in this virtual environment. Now, I think the team will talk to you about this today, but we know it's not gonna be easy. But we all have full confidence in your ability to provide a high quality instructional program. And then we all believe, and I know that a lot of you agree with us, that we have some of the best and brightest teachers, not only here in Kern County, but we believe throughout the state of California. So as you know, we don't have all the answers yet. As our team today, they're gonna walk you through what we do know and what we will do as of now and vet those issues with you. We're going to be answering some of your questions, and we're going to walk through some of the expectations and protocols that we have laid out and established. And finally, toward the end, we're going to be reviewing our next steps and communicating this plan to our entire educational community, because we do that very well. But in closing, I want to say a couple of things. One, I want to remind everyone of our guiding principles. And we all know we start off all our meetings with our guiding principles. As a district, we'll continue to look to these principles to lead us in making decisions on behalf of the many students and families we serve. So our vision and mission statement, ladies and gentlemen, are the same. They remain true. We, the Bakersfield City School District, we continue to strive, and again, to be the model of educational excellence, equity, and innovation. And that's our 30-second elevator speech. So remember a couple of things as I close. One, each and every one of you on this call is an educational role model. Our families and kids look up to you. Two, we gotta, and all of us, keep your expectations high for student learning. Keep them high. Keep your expectations for student learning very high, and continue to ensure that every decision that you make is in the best interest of kids. It's not a cliche, because we all think about what's best for kids. This year will be challenging, but again, I think that we can achieve greatness if we continue to engage and think about how do we educate our students in this new virtual format. So remember, again, together, we can continue to be the model of educational excellence. And the school year, upcoming school year is not going to be easy, but We believe with your support, we will respond to this crisis, we will recover from this crisis, and most importantly, we're all going to thrive. So thanks a lot for allowing me to open up, and I look forward to seeing you during the school year. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate your words to start this morning. A couple of elements as we go into our guiding principles that we see on the walls of our classrooms and the walls of our school offices. First and foremost, today is about collaboration. It's about communication. Our hope and intent today is to begin to build clarity for all of our teachers and staff at our school sites. So as we go through the conversation today, I encourage you to use the chat box and post your questions. Every question is a good question. Every question deserves a response. So please don't hesitate to use that. We will work to monitor the chat box and respond if appropriate, and we will build out a frequently asked question document that will go out to staff upon the conclusion of our town halls today and after we have time to respond to the questions. So please, I encourage you to use the chat box. I encourage you to offer your thoughts and suggestions to us as we work forward. So again, coming back to our guiding principles, it's important that the language on our classroom walls lives in the work of our district. And I want to focus on our core priorities as Doc talked about our vision statement, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. Priority one, a culture of collective efficacy. It is more important than ever for all of us as Team BCSD to work together to enter into this school year with the most efficacious mindsets, being willing to learn and grow as we better understand and learn how to teach through a computer. This year is full of uncertainty, and although we hope to get our kids back in school in relative short order, it is likely that we'll be in a virtual format for quite a while, and then it's likely that we would return to virtual learning throughout the course of the school year. So this is new, this is different, and we are going to learn this together, and we're going to work together to make this the best model that we can. A culture of teaching and learning. It's important for all of us as a school system to continue to work together in a collaborative and interdependent mindset, to lean on each other, to build out our instructional schedules, our lessons, and the strategies that we use to engage and support students. And now I call upon you to, more than ever, work together to make this year the most successful year possible, given the conditions that we're working in. Priority three, a culture of student-centered schools. We understand that as a community, our students need us. We understand the trauma and social emotional needs of our students. And so as we go through today's presentation, as we go through next week's virtual institutes, and as we enter into the school year, we will continue to weave in the ideas and strategies for how we can build community in our classrooms in a virtual world to be the best supports to our students that we can possibly be. And then priority four, it's all about a culture of access and inclusion to support a multi-tiered system of supports for all students. And again, as we work forward, our job as district administrators is to build out supports at the school sites and across the district to assist you, classroom teachers and support staff, with ensuring that we're engaging, supporting, and meeting the needs of every student. So as we go into the next slide, today's purpose. So if we are to be, as Doc said, the model of educational excellence, equity, and innovation, I'm asking you to reframe your mindset today, to think, but how can we lean into our instructional program, lean into the use of technology, and begin to reconsider how we design learning experiences for students, how we utilize technology to leverage learning so that we can reimagine what teaching and learning is across the Bakersfield City School District for this 2020-2021 school year. Go ahead and click forward 3 more times. So again, we must reframe how we approach teaching and learning in a virtual world. We must reconsider how we engage and support students through technology. We must reimagine our classrooms to create the conditions for a student-centered approach to learning, where we lean into and embrace the opportunity to serve as a model for the state of California in this distance learning, virtual learning format. I have complete trust in our team. I have complete belief in our team. And I know that working together, we can make this successful. So I also recognize and understand that this can be uncomfortable. This is certainly unknown. And so our responsibility is to move all of our staff from their comfort zone to where we will learn together, grow together, and become a better iteration of ourselves as we navigate this virtual world. So my ask of all of you is to don't hesitate to reach out. Find someone who you can work with, email myself, any of our Ed Services support teams with questions, thoughts, needs. We are doing our best to look at every angle of support for students and support for you, but I'm sure you're seeing things that perhaps we're missing. So don't hesitate to share your comments, share your thoughts, and together we'll become more comfortable in this uncertain year. And so I do want to start today's conversation with very important education code language that I think all of us need to understand as we begin to shape the framework. So let me start here. All of today's conversation and presentation is all about developing frameworks for how we want to lean into and start this year. All of this will require negotiations with our associations, both Beta and CSEA, to negotiate the effects of this year. So please understand that there's still a lot of work ahead of us. And I applaud Steve Comstock, I applaud Lindy Nielsen, I applaud Bob Boyd, all of the members of our task force committees and subcommittees who have worked tirelessly and grinded all throughout summer in preparation for this moment so that we can present to you a strong plan for the start of the school year. And so Education Code 43501 does dictate daily instructional minutes that are required for all students in all grade levels. And so as we map out our instructional plan, we are adhering to those minutes. I'm going to talk about terminology shortly, but we are very cognizant of what the state expects of us. And so we're working to ensure that we meet and exceed that level of expectation. Education Code 43503 explicitly details the requirements of distance learning. That distance learning must include daily live interaction with certificated employees and peers for the purposes of instruction, progress monitoring, and maintaining school connectedness. So as we design our framework to launch our conversations, we took these ideas in mind. And so in addition to the work that you, our classroom teachers, will do, we are building out systems across our schools to support you with the engagement factor, because we recognize that if you are teaching, you can't be calling home to Mark Lukey's parents saying, get Mark online. So we're going to support that effort to monitor attendance and to contact families to get kids connected, identify why they're not connected, and Tim will talk about some of the methods we're going to utilize to support that. And home visits in a controlled manner will be one of those. And then Ed Code 43504 dictates that districts document daily participation for each pupil on each school day in whole or in part for which distance learning is provided. So we will be measured on instruction, on engagement, and on attendance. And so we are going to develop our plan and our systems, further develop and negotiate with the association across these three education codes specifically. So I thought this was important to share with you as we go into the next slide. Now, we all love, and I say that sarcastically, the ongoing additions to educational lingo that we experience as educators. These are the two new terms that we're going to have to embrace and work to better understand. Synchronous and asynchronous learning. So let's start with synchronous learning. Synchronous learning is when students and teachers are online at the same time. Students learn at the same time under the direct instruction of the teacher. Interaction occurs between teachers and students in either a whole group or a small group setting. Examples would be direct instruction, small group instruction, class discussions, and conferencing. Asynchronous learning would be when kids are working on previously assigned learning by the teacher. Assignments can be differentiated for individual students. Students complete work at their own pace. Examples would be flipped classrooms, opportunities for reading, watching videos like Khan Academy, tutorials, designing, creating, and utilizing the plethora of district adopted online platforms. So as we go through this, we are also awaiting guidance from the state on how much time the state's going to dictate to be synchronous versus asynchronous. But what we understand from the education code language is that the state of California expects school districts in a distance learning model to have as much time as possible in a synchronous format. So we're going to build this out with you, our teachers, together collaboratively. And from the beginning of this process, I want to assure you that my direction to Christine Chapman and the team has been, I want teachers' hands and eyes and ears on all of these plans. You are in the classroom. You are the designers of learning. We want to work with you to build a better model of what we provide as a template. We encourage you to work together with your grade level department teams to create the very best model. And then I ask you to share what you've created with colleagues across the district so that through this, every child in our district, regardless of school site and classroom, can benefit from the vast experience of our teachers in the Bakersfield City School District. So with that, I want to say thank you very much again for joining us. Please use the chat box. And now I turn it over to Christine Chapman, who will continue the presentation.
Thank you for joining us today. I would like to start this conversation to kind of give you some background about the work that's been going on since March. Since March, we have looked at the fall 2020 as a potential of 4 scenarios. And as you can see, I have them outlined for you. And as we move further and further into the summer, our scenarios started to narrow. And we, up until about a week ago, we were considering the 50-50 hybrid model, as well as the fact that we might have to go all students begin school virtually. But the task has always been throughout our work during the summer to create and to provide our staff with as much support going into fall 2020. And that would be considering that we could potentially be in the situation we found ourselves in right now, and that is 100% virtual. So we've had multiple groups working on the content as well as the daily schedules and the supports that were going to be needed by both our teachers and students in this new format. So we always, from the very beginning, our number one has been the health and safety of our students and staff. And we know that if we were to come back to school at this time, we would have to consider the limited contact, the physical distance that was necessary. But we also had to consider what are those instructional minutes. So with the new guidance from the CDE, the instructional minutes have decreased as compared to a regular school year. And you see the minutes outlined in this document right here. And for your grade levels, 4th through 8th grade, is a minimum of 240 minutes a day that teachers need to be in contact with students. We also considered, as we develop schedules, the contract with Beta and the student contact minutes, which are again outlined below. You'll see them here in regards to how we developed our schedules. So at this time, I believe I'm going to talk about how we really came up with these recommendations and reiterate Mark's comment about having as many teachers involved in this learning process. So above and beyond the return to school task force that Mr. Fluke has been guiding throughout this summer, we have had an instructional task force. And this task force is made up with a majority of classroom teachers. And this group was given the task to provide guidance in regards to not only the instructional minutes, but the content and the supports that they believe that teachers would need moving into fall 2020. We then took the recommendations regarding the schedules to our principal subcommittee. This was a very important step, especially in our middle school schedule, as we were considering the 50-50 model and how that would look if students wouldn't be able to move classrooms. And then we took those recommendations to our teacher curriculum work teams. And our teacher curriculum work teams are made up for every grade level, every content area, and they were tasked with not only putting together and advising on these draft schedules, but they have been working diligently throughout this summer to provide our teachers with content for the first 4 weeks of school. And that was intentional because we understand that not everybody is comfortable with this virtual learning environment that we are moving into. And we wanted to provide them with models and strategies and how to implement the content that we have developed within that virtual world, which is going to involve Google Classroom as well as Zoom. The district has purchased Business Pro Zoom licenses for each teacher, so you will have those options to use both of those programs throughout this school year. Then the schedules went on to the executive directors and they reviewed them as well. And then after we brought those draft schedules back to our instructional task force for more guidance and review. Yesterday, we shared them with our principals and they have given us input in regards to the schedules. And now we're here with you in our teacher town hall with our middle school team to look at these schedules. So at this time, I'm going to move into the schedule. There's a lot of pieces in it that I want to take some time to explain. I'm going to just flip through our elementary and get right to the 4th and 6th grade schedule. So I just want you to look at schedule right now. We'll talk about what the periods are going to look like and how kids are going to rotate at this point. So what you see before you is a draft. And again, this is a guidance document. This is something that is going to be in discussions between the district and the union. It's not finalized, but the key is here, this is guidance. These are our best recommendations and thinking at this time on how we can manage a middle school schedule inside of a virtual world. So as you can see, we have blocks for each of the different periods. And on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, there is the first number you see up here, the contact time minutes. That is the contact time that teachers will be engaged with students. And then I have noted on the bottom of this slide what your contract says in regards to the max student contact time and the requirements for the CDE. And you'll notice that the requirements for the CDE were 240 minutes. But the reality is that we know that not only from spring 2020, but many of our students come to us with a need for more time, more instruction with our students. And so we have tried to create these schedules to provide not only the bare minimum, but extra, because we know we need to mitigate that learning loss that is taking place as we speak. So let's talk about these block times. So first of all, let's talk about synchronous and asynchronous and what these green blocks mean. This is your daily schedule. All teachers in BCSD, the recommendation is that all teachers in BCSD will work from 8 to 3:15. Those will be official work hours. When you see each morning as students log in, there will be an extra 40 minutes aligned to that whatever that period is that the teacher is teaching at that time. So it's either going to be your first or fourth period. We'll have an extra 40 minutes to do a check-in with students in regards to maybe tech needs, but also to implement an SEL lesson. And our SEL team, and they'll be speaking later on in this town hall, has worked diligently along with us throughout the summer to provide you with up to, I believe they said 50 lessons that you can use during this time block. Then each of the, I have the wrong schedule and nobody's telling me. Sorry guys, this is your middle school schedule. So it is 20 minutes that you will have for, we suggest an LCL lesson, and then you will rotate through your periods. So on one day a week, one day you will be hitting your block, your first period, your second period, and your third period. And then the following day, you will hit your fourth period, your fifth period, and your sixth period. As you can see, we consider the need for breaks. We consider the fact that not only students, but teachers need a break from their screens. So we've even put in there a virtual recess for students, as well as a break for lunch and prep between 11:45 and 1 o'clock for our middle school teachers. That block is large, and the reason for this is that we have to think about our students that are at home who are going to need a lunch and breakfast. So this time period of an hour and 15 minutes will allow our families to get offline, get to the closest school, pick up the day's lunch as well as the following day's breakfast. And then they will go in, then they will come back and log back on for their 1 o'clock class. And that will be either period 3 or period 6. Let's talk about what we mean by synchronous and asynchronous. As you can see that when it comes to the SEL block, we've written synchronous because that particular time will be time spent with the whole group. And we are suggesting that you are involved in that SEL lesson during that first block of time in the morning. When we say asynchronous and synchronous, this is the time where you will either be providing whole group instruction, which is synchronous, or you may be providing small group instruction. And we know that that's going to be highly important moving into the school year, as we need to differentiate our instruction to address the needs of our students. But when you are meeting with that small group of students, you will have assigned asynchronous work to those teachers, to those students you're not meeting with, such as an achieve lesson, such as a writing project, such as maybe an inquiry-based project that they have to work on. But the key here is that all students need to have access to their teacher during those green blocks. So whether it's you set up a Google Doc where they can ask questions, whether you're monitoring them through Google Classroom or providing a chat for them to ask questions, the key is during those green blocks, you are engaged with students. Now, for the Wednesday schedule, which is on your right-hand side, we have created a schedule to allow you a nice block of time in the afternoon for not only additional prep time, but for professional development and collaboration time. Now, some of the things that I kind of want to highlight as moving forward is I need you to remember that this is guidance and suggestions, and including the content that has been created by the teacher work teams. Those are just the floor. This work started with the development of a key essential standard for every grade level and every content level. That key essential standard is going to be highly important for you as you move not only through the 2021 school year, but potentially the next 3 or 4 school years as we try to catch students up from the learning loss. And so that document is the base level, the basic skills we want our kids to have when they leave the grade level. It also will identify any of those skills that may need to be addressed from the previous year's learning that may be holes for our students, and how you can get them to that grade level standard. So the teams have built out the content for a minimum of 4 weeks that is going to be available on a website by grade level, by content area. And all of these items are like our models of best practices and our best thinking to provide you with exemplary models of things that could be helpful for you as you start to move forward in week 5 and moving forward in designing your own lessons. Do you need to follow the lessons and the way that they're taught within the content that's going to be shared? No. We want you to have that freedom to teach the way that's best for you and the best for your students. The whole concept was to provide those people who may not be comfortable with our virtual learning environment of using Zoom and Google time to really practice those skills and work through how to engage kids. So the content is built out for you. You can pull it into your Google Classroom or use it during your Zoom meetings, and you can build up from there. It's just a base. We wanted also, our tech team, we've had an amazing tech team throughout this whole process from March on, who has worked diligently to provide you support documents, not only for you as a teacher and how to access many of these virtual platforms, but also guidance on how you can teach your students these tech skills that they're going to need in this new environment. We want to make sure that you understand that we are currently revising our assessment calendar, as we know that in this virtual world, we may not be able to give the assessments we usually have given. And so that is under construction as we speak. We're using guidance from the CDE on what assessments they recommend for us to use during a virtual learning model. And we will be sharing that with you as soon as possible. So as I close out today, I want you to understand that all of this work that's been being put together by our content work teams, as well as our tech work teams and our SEL work teams, our special ed and BAPA teams, this is all going to be pushed out during our Virtual Summer Institute, which starts next Tuesday. So if you had not had a chance to register, please do so. You're going to get your content during the content, and SEL and tech gives you 2 opportunities, 2 different choices that you can attend. So we want you to take advantage of those, because they are going to give you that great base that you're going to need to succeed with your students moving forward. So let's talk about what the actual build out of the days is going to be. So again, I want to remind you that this is definitely a draft. This will be a discussion, and a finalized decision will be made. But what we're suggesting is that we flip-flop between periods 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6 every other day. And understanding that is going to mean that you're not going to see your students as often as you normally see them. We are also recommending a revision to our progress and report card schedule. By pushing out our first trimester, considering that we're going to be in a virtual model, we are going to we are recommending a trimester schedule. This will allow you more time to interact with your students and get a great understanding on where they are, so you can communicate those things with your parents.
So let's pause there, because there's a lot there to digest. And I want to go through and kind of talk about a couple of the questions that I see in the chat. When I intro today, I talked about the importance of all of us reframing how we approach teaching and learning in this virtual world. This is going to be significantly different than a traditional school setting. The need to block our schedule in a virtual world is best for students to get more time to engage in limited content. It will certainly be different when we're able to return to school in a regular setting, but for now, this is how we are going to approach the first quarter of our instruction, the first grading period. So our hope is that we're able to get to school, back to school sooner, but the conditions in the community are going to dictate that. I also want to address a couple of things for all of us that yes, the district is committed to ensuring every student receives a device, a Chromebook, connectivity, a hotspot. The hotspot will be unlimited data that allows kids to navigate learning all day and all night if they choose. We are also investing in resources, materials that kids would need at home because that becomes their classroom. And so we'll work to gather those lists, get those ordered, get those delivered and prepared. We are also working on the calendar with Beta in that we believe, based off of the learnings of this summer's program, that there is an absolute need to engage with parents before the year begins to establish concrete norms for expectations of engagement via a computer. Student behaviors, expectations, parent behaviors and expectations, if we're going to have kids online engaged to be most successful. So our hope is that we work with the association and we're able to move the first day of school to Monday, August the 17th. That would allow us the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, August 12th, 13th, and 14th to schedule in very controlled groups in a controlled environment orientation for students and a parent. We'll have more information on that as we work through the process with Beta, but it is our belief that as we enter into the school year, it is now more important than ever that we have the opportunity to engage with parents to communicate the importance of what a at-home learning environment should be like for our students. And also to understand in our parent town halls, the expectations we give to them and what their concerns are. So we have many structures in place to work to build communication, to work to build clarity, to work to identify the resources that our students need at home to be most engaged, and we're working diligently to make those things happen. In addition, if you listened to the board meeting on Tuesday, I talked briefly about this. We are taking the position as a school district to afford our teachers the opportunity to choose if they are going to work in their home environment or the school environment. We will work on very, very specific expectations of duties and responsibilities with Beta. And then it will be incumbent upon every teacher to identify what their response is, whether it's the classroom or at home, or maybe a mixture. Maybe it's a couple of days there and a couple of days here. We want to be flexible because we understand that each of you has a unique experience at home, and we want to be attentive, cognizant, and respectful of that. And so we'll work through this together. We will identify the best response and move forward. But again, it's going to require all of us to work together. And so continue offering your feedback, your questions in the chat box, and let's move forward to the next slide. Thank you very much.
All right, so we had a team of teachers working together to create lessons for SEL. And there is a lesson specifically geared towards middle school students for every day for the first 10 weeks of school. So there are 50 ready to go lessons. And they were created by teachers with the help of the coaches. And I'm a teacher myself and helped develop these lessons. And I wanted something that was going to be easy for me to do, knowing that everything is so different, and we want, to really have a springboard to jump off of. And so each week has a different theme, from stress and anxiety, relationship building, friendship. But again, it's all geared towards middle school. And just like the elementary, they also have grade spans of these developed lessons. In middle school, you will use second step, and on every Tuesday, there will be a lesson specifically for second step. And so it's really going to be important that you sign up for the Virtual Summer Institute and take that SEL professional development. And they'll really will walk you through how to do things. Along with the lessons that are really grab and go, there's videos, there are circle prompts in there, mindful moments. All of that is there. The most that you would really need is just paper and something to write with. We tried to make sure that was as easy as possible. And for the junior high, a lot can be done on the computer as well for the students. They might make a slide or type a response. All of the teachers will also have access to a website through the district that is all geared toward SEL. So in there, there will be mindfulness prompts. There are resiliency journals. There are circle prompts for teachers there's actually a slide deck of 50 circle prompts for teachers that might not know what to say for circles, or they don't know how to get them started. And there is just a plethora of other resources on that website. Videos for like kids yoga and stuff like that. We want to remind you, just like Christine said, like these lessons are really the floor. This is your starting point. There's so much more you could do if you choose to. If you're someone that hasn't taught SEL or isn't comfortable with it yet, you really can just follow the lessons that are there. So we will go a lot more in depth in this in the Summer Institute, the Virtual Summer Institute. So please make sure that you sign up for that. So another tool that we will be using is called KidCope. And if you listened to the board meeting earlier this week, you might have heard a little bit about it. It basically is going to be a questionnaire that the kids will answer for themselves. Being a teacher, I looked through it because I wanted to kind of see the language and the questions that were being asked. And there are simple things like when you went through a stressful time, for instance, the pandemic and everything else going around in the world right now. What did you try to do these things, or what were you likely to do? Did you withdraw? Did you yell and scream? Did you stay, away from your friends and just kind of exclude yourself from that? But like I said, the kids will answer these questions themselves. The MTSS team will have access to these. So if there is a student that we're seeing needs additional supports, then we can get that to them, because we still do have, as teachers, access to all of those supports that we had when we were in the in school. We want to make sure we're still getting that help to our kids. And then all of these questions, they'll be used to help the students set goals for themselves, SEL goals, things that they need to work on. And that will be a conversation that you can have with the students as well to kind of help them progress monitor that. But this is something that they do, not the teacher.
Okay, so along with all of those resources that we are going to have available for teachers to help their kids get through any kind of stressors or feelings that they may be going through, we want you to remember to not forget about yourself. I've been watching the chat in both of these town halls, and there's so many questions to all the unknowns that we have right now. And first and foremost, we need to just dig deep and remember to be patient, because we're all breaking ground on this. We've never anticipated this in our teaching careers, and it's new to everyone. There obviously have been nights filled with anxiety. I've been in Google meetings, Zoom meetings all week long with new teacher support or development. And a lot of those, for even the most veteran teachers, are having the most difficult time because of the worries that can overwhelm you. And so we want to make sure that you guys are taken care of and that we take care of ourselves. Meaning that you have to know you're not alone in this. We all are concerned. We all are worried about, how long is this going to go on? But rather than, wallow in that and the negativity will take over easily, we want to make sure that you can reach out there's coaches for your area where your school's at, colleagues. There's so many people on your campuses that you can just go and seek out, but you have to do that. If you have been training in SEL for the amount of years that we've been doing it, I told the previous meeting, this is what we've been training for, guys. We need to use all the things that we have learned. If you've gone to any of these circles, mindfulness, just anything that's going to help you meet those kids where they are at, use some of those things for yourself first by finding, those that you can reach out to. A buddy teacher, a friend, even outside of education. We talked about that also in our meetings this week. A lot of times when we're all in it together, yes, that there's a level of support, but sometimes getting that fresh perspective from somebody that is not in education, just so you can just bounce that off of them, and help bring you out of that mindset that's just can be so overwhelming and bring you down. We want you guys to be taken care of. So not only do you need to find your person, whoever that may be, or persons, go to the website where we have had this SEL care for you, and it's got so many resources, so many things that you can do to just keep yourself centered, keep yourself taken care of, so you can meet the needs of those students, because we all know we've got to take care of ourselves if we want to take care of others. And it's super, super important to get as much as you can from the SEL resources. And if you haven't been one to shy away from these activities, especially in your classroom or even for yourself, it's not for me, now's the time to dig in. It's never too late. Reach out to people. And if you see somebody that is not one to reach out, check on your people. Check on your next door neighbor. Check on those that are in your school site. It's not so easy as not walking next door, but you can still reach out virtually. You can. So we just want to make sure that these options are available for you to just take care.
Thank you, Sarah and Trish for that. This is Dr. Fullenweider. So we want to also let you know what supports are available out for kids and families as it relates to mental health and SEL. Obviously, we are all very concerned with the social emotional state of our students right now and our staff, as you can see. This is a very difficult time. Many of us have gone through many difficult moments over the last few months, and we all need to be in this together and provide supports for one another. So our MTSS processes will remain the same, even though there may not have a physical meeting for MTSS groups like we normally do. Those meetings will be virtual. You can still refer students through ARIES to your school's MTSS team. And you can always reach out and contact your principal and staff members like your behavior intervention specialist to bring attention to students that you feel like might need support. And you're going to find kids that need support. I know many of you have stayed in contact with your students during this time, even over the summer, because you care about how they're doing. And honestly, they may not be getting the supports at home that you feel like they need to have, and they're reaching out to you because they trust you. And so when those things happen, please refer any needs to your MTSS team at your site. We have been working all summer to prepare our behavior intervention specialists and our youth services specialists, our social workers and psychologists to provide supports for mental health and SEL for kids and families in the event that we were in a virtual environment. So they are working diligently to prepare for that, and also to help and assist with engaging students. One of the big concerns we all have is, will students remain engaged? We know some checked out at the end of the year and maybe didn't log on after a while. The requirements from the California Department of Education require us to have a plan to engage students who disengage. And so we'll be utilizing our service providers and staff to go out and to make home visits. We can very safely make a home visit, go out, masks on, gloves, knock on a door, back up 6 feet and have a conversation and try to figure out why a student is disengaged. Is there a concern at the home? And then try to connect the students with those resources. Or maybe they didn't know how to do something and were afraid to ask, and we can help them do that. We'll also be utilizing our FACE department to do a lot of reaching out and ARIES communication to make sure we have really good contact information for all of our families. That's a big push for us this year, because we know a lot of times the phone numbers that sometimes end up in ARIES, they change or they're not very accurate. And so we want to make sure we really redefine what it means to engage our families during this time. Another resource that will be available that you may have heard mentioned at the board meeting is we are contracting with an app. It's called Sprigeo, and it will allow for families and students to report issues and concerns that they have 24/7, 365 days a year. A big concern is that with students not in school, our normal means of identifying who needs support, or just being able to have a student come up and say, this is going on at my home and I don't know what to do about it, those would normally be in place. And so, sorry, my phone rang. And so we want to make sure that the parents and students can, ask for support no matter when it is. If it's the middle of the night, they can ask for support. It will go to a call center. If it is an immediate need, then emergency services will be deployed from the call center to respond. If it's something that the students can, or that can be addressed by a school site, then it will be forwarded on to the appropriate person at each school site to respond to. So we really want to meet the needs of our kids, no matter where they are, no matter what their resources are. And before I transition to health with Terry, who will talk about that, I just wanted to add that as we do this, we know things won't necessarily be perfect. You're going to find opportunities for refinement and improvement. Please reach out, please email us, please call us, please contact us to let us know how things can improve and do better. And we want to do that. This is new for many of us. Actually, it's new for all of us. So please feel free to reach out, to ask for support or to offer feedback. We want it. It makes us better, and we're all in this together.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Terry Lindsay. I'm the school health coordinator, and I'm going to briefly talk to you about the work that we've been doing to develop health and safety protocols. Since we are opening with virtual instruction only, I know the priority that people are interested in is more about the curriculum piece, but we do want to share with you the work that's being done so that you know the work that the steps that we're taking to ensure the health and safety of our students and staff. So the first thing I want to talk about is the health and safety protocols. Any health and safety protocols that pertain to students is being written and kind of questions being answered by the school health department. Any health and safety protocols that are related to staff, the contact is going to be human resources. We are working together to develop those, but they will be the primary contact for the staff health and safety protocols. Next slide. Once we do return to students in-person instruction, students will be going through a phased health screening. The message that you will hear over and over for students and for staff is that if you are sick or you have had close contact with someone that has COVID-19, then you should stay home. The CDC defines the close contact as less than 6 feet for 15 minutes or greater. The parents, for the parent screening, we have developed a tool that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen that is a questionnaire. A letter accompanies that questionnaire or a tool guide and prompts them how to go through that information, and then offers them the ability to have any questions answered about that tool. And then they sign an agreement indicating that they will do this screening at home before they send their student to school. So the way that the guide works is there are 3 questions. The first one is, in the past 14 days, has your student had close contact less than 6 feet for 15 minutes or greater with someone diagnosed with COVID-19, or has any health department or healthcare provider been in contact with you and advised you that your student needs to self-isolate or quarantine at home? And then underneath that, you see if they answer yes, we're telling them that the student needs to stay at home and they need to monitor for symptoms. And they can return to school 14 days after their last exposure. If they develop symptoms after the exposure, then they have to meet the criteria listed under question 2. If they answer no to that question, then they go to the next question, which is, in the past 24 hours, has your student had one or more of the following symptoms? And it lists the symptoms of COVID underneath that. If they do have symptoms, then they keep their student home, and the student can return to school once they've met that criteria to discontinue home isolation. That is 3 days with no fever, symptoms have improved, and 10 days since the symptoms first appeared. If they answer no to that question, then they go to the last question, which is asking if the student has been diagnosed with COVID-19. If they have, then they must stay home. They can return to school 10 days after the test unless symptoms develop. If symptoms develop, then they go back to question 2, and they have to meet the CDC criteria to discontinue home isolation. If the parent answers no to all 3 questions, then they may send their child to school. So the letter that accompanies this, the parent agrees that they will conduct this assessment with their student and that they will follow the guidelines listed in the screening guide. And next slide. So then after the student arrives to school, they will go through a school health screening. So all students will participate in a visual check for signs of illness, and then also a no-touch temperature check. So the visual check is, we're looking for obvious signs of illness. You can see them listed there. And then we do use the infrared thermometer to do the no-touch temperature. Next slide. Staff will do something very similar. The messaging is the same. If you're sick or if you've had contact with someone with COVID, then we want you to stay home. You will self-screen at home for your own history of exposure and symptoms every morning before you come to work. And then when you arrive to work, you will enter in through the office and participate in a no-touch temperature check as well. After school starts and students are in class, the health monitoring continues throughout the day. So just like we all know, you may wake up in the morning and you feel fine, and then by mid-morning you're starting to exhibit symptoms. We don't always get sick in the evening or at night. It can happen at any point during the day, and that's for students or for staff. So if a student starts to exhibit symptoms during the screening or during the day, they'll be sent to an isolation room that's on campus, and they will remain in there until they leave the campus. The parent will be provided with instruction at that time when they're picking their student up of when they can return to school and any actions that they need to take for their student. Any staff member who starts to exhibit symptoms during the school day will be sent home. So some of the health and safety protocols that are, some of them are complete, some of them are still in the works, are things like face coverings. The expectation is that all students and staff will wear face coverings. We do understand that there are some staff members or students who that may not be possible, whether it be a medical condition or a developmental issue, something along those lines. So the protocol will cover different types of alternatives or accommodations that we can make for those that are unable to wear one. Other types of personal protective equipment that we are currently writing protocols for and determining who needs to wear them would be face shields, disposable face masks, gloves, and disposable gowns. So there's different reasons for wearing those things. Sometimes it's for a medical reason, sometimes it's for an instructional purpose. So it will outline that information as well. Next slide. Other areas that you'll see coming from school health is the physical distancing guidelines and the importance of why we maintain our physical distancing, hand washing and use of hand sanitizer. We will be working on some education and plans for things like covering contact with the eyes, nose, and mouth, which you will often hear us refer to that as the T-zone. Covering coughs and sneeze appropriately, using various types of face coverings, including like when to use, proper use, care, removal, and disposal. The health screening practices, including the COVID-19 specific symptom identification. So this would be like education for staff members who are conducting health screenings, and then what do they do if a student has symptoms or has a temperature. That will be outlined for them. But then there will also be information specific to teachers for in the classroom. If you notice symptoms in the classroom, where you should send that student. Or I'll give you an example. You may have a student who has a history of asthma who may be experiencing some wheezing and difficulty breathing and needs their inhaler, which is kept in the office. We would not want to send that student to the isolation room where there's possibly people in there with potential COVID symptoms and expose them. So we will be creating something for teacher use for that. And then the daily disinfecting of the high touch surfaces and cleaning schedule that the district will be doing. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I was typing in a comment. So as we work forward, appreciate the questions in the chat box. Again, if we don't answer today, we will put this together into an FAQ and get a response out. Next steps. We will continue to communicate with employees throughout this process, throughout the preparations for a return to school in a virtual world, throughout the process as we hope to return students to the classroom at some point, and reiterate and over communicate the protocols and expectations of health and safety conditions. I do want to inform all of you that we will have a special education teacher town hall. That was brought up in this morning session, so we will work with our SPED team to schedule and organize a session just for you. And we will also develop a full training calendar that launches after our upcoming next 2 weeks of summer virtual training. So if you have not yet registered for that, I encourage you to do so. As we navigate into the start of the school year, we will continue to offer training for our teachers. And again, we are in this together. There is no expectation of perfect. This is new and different. What there is an expectation of is that we work together as one team to lean on each other, to work, to learn together, and to build out the best iteration of distance learning in a virtual world possible. And I firmly believe that together we can accomplish this, and we will get better as we move through the process. So next slide, please. So closing comments. And I just want to thank all of you once again for giving your time on a Friday when you are on vacation to this time to allow us to share with you the start of our communication plan to restart our school. As we move into the start of the school year, just know that our return to work date for our staff is August 10th. If you are a regular, 182-day employee, we will work to have staff present for the preparation of our classrooms, because once again, we do expect at some point kids to come back to school. We will do that in a very safe manner that includes facial coverings, masks, physical distancing, and all of those structures. We will launch the school year in a solely virtual format where you, the teacher, will teach through the computer with students. We are working diligently with Beta to work through the effects of this year's instructional program. We are working again to push the start of the school year back to Monday, August 17th, to afford us the opportunity to have some necessary and needed orientations with our parents to provide them the tools and materials and resources so that when kids start school, they're prepared to connect and launch in a virtual nature. Again, we will do this all together. We will do this in a methodical manner. We will lean on each other. And so I ask you to be patient with us, with yourselves. Take care of yourself through this process, and never hesitate to reach out to any of us in the district if you need support, if you have a question, or you have an idea, because once again, we're going to rely on you to assist us with building the best model possible. Now, today's town hall is being recorded. It will be available via YouTube and all of our social media channels. We are recording and saving the chat box. The chat box will turn into a frequently asked question document that we will respond to and push that out to all of our middle school, junior high teachers. And we will work through to make sure that we continue to build clarity. And so once again, I think that Doc, Mr. Irvin had to step off the line.
I'm still here, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Okay, I thought you left. All right. Let's have Doc offer some closing comments.
No, I think listening to the conversation today and listening and watching the chat box, just keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that this is uncharted territory. So there's not going to be any right or wrong answers, but how do we make sure that we make decisions going forward? So, we have to ask for everyone to be patient, but I do agree with Mark that we're going to be able to get through this. I think we're going to be very successful, but it's going to be some challenges ahead, and let's be patient on that. But let's work closely with your school teams, your colleagues, with the district office. Mark is correct. We're working very closely with our associations. None of us have the answer. None of us have ever experienced this before. So, but I will tell you this, compared to all the other districts in the state of California, we've actually have been doing a lot of great collaboration, and we're all on the same page. But this uncharted territory, we're going to need you to stay focused on how do we make sure that we make decisions good for kids, and we put all good systems and structures in place to ensure that our kids are successful. Because on the other side of this, we're going to continue to be the best of the best. And we've been working very hard, a lot of us, for the last 4 or 5 years since my tenure began and Mark came on board with me. And I know Steve Comstock is on the line, and I know he'll give a thumbs up that we've been working very closely with him. I see Steve shaking his head, yes. But Steve will tell you as well, this is uncharted territory. So just be patient. And if you think of something that we haven't thought of, please reach out. Let's over communicate. So with that, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your summer schedules to be with us today. And we look forward to the future and working closely with each and every one of you. So thank you so much. I'll yield my time back to Mark.
Thank you very much, Doc. So as we conclude today, I want to give you a few moments to digest today's slide deck. I want to ask you to utilize the chat box to add any additional questions or thoughts you have. I want to encourage you that if you have a question, a comment, or a thought after today, you can email myself, Christine Chapman, and Dr. Tim Fullenwider, and we will receive those. Again, there's a lot of work ahead of us, and we will be successful because we're going to work together, and we will rely on each other. So if we can go forward one more slide, I just want to end by saying thank you for your time. We're going to hang on the call for a little bit to let you offer any final questions or thoughts. And let me end with this thought, because I see it in the chat. Every teacher in our district is receiving a Zoom Pro business license account. Those accounts, emails will be coming to you in your inbox as you return to duty. So look for that email. John Deaton is working with Zoom to get all of us connected and set up. So that will be available in your inbox right around the time you return to duty. We look forward to continuing to build out that tool and supporting us as we go into our work this year. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. We're going to end the town hall. Appreciate all of you. Please offer your final thoughts, questions in the chat box, and we're going to hang out for a while. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all very much. We'll see you soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be well. Thank you.